Welcome to the Legendarium Green Team, Episode 1. I'm your host, Kyptan, and with me I have Little Red Book, Hurinfan, and Ceskykure. Today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite books which maybe don't receive enough love. Maybe they're old, maybe they're niche, maybe they're elusive next Harry Potter, but one thing's for sure, we're going to tell you about them. One by one, we're going to give a series of elevator pitches for our favorite books, and then answer a couple questions. First up, Hurinfan.
Hey, call me Hurin. I feel like I don't belong in this group. I'm a bit new to you guys seem like reading veterans.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
No, I just mean as far as our reading experiences. But yeah, the first book I chose was, I guess it wasn't a book, but it's a series, The Craft Sequence. I know Chesky and Kip have read it, so I'll try to keep it short, but...
Oh no, please tell everyone about the craft sequence. It deserves to be told.
Very much deserves.
First, it's high fantasy, but it's also urban fantasy, which I have never read before. Anytime I hear urban fantasy, I imagine, our world. It feels, and unlike most fantasy I've written, where it feels like it's pulling from ancient sources, or it's somewhere far in the past, maybe a fantastic past. It feels more modern than really any other fantasy series I've read, and that the themes and the topics that they handle are very modern. Like it feels like it goes over, like gentrification is one of the themes in one of the books, or the magic system is really cool too.
Yeah, magic is great in that book series. Big part of everything that's going on with everything in the whole book. So very important there.
It definitely follows Sanderson's laws of magic.
Really? The other day I thought you said that it wasn't so hard.
It doesn't mean it has to be hard, but it definitely follows the laws.
It has to be awesome too.
Like not a lot of problems are necessarily solved with the magic outside of the reader's understanding of it. But what laws that it does set up, it keeps to. And restrictions are always more important.
It felt like I was reading sometimes contracts.
The limitations of the magic are always more important and interesting.
Yeah, I felt so it works like people. Are they usually priests? They make contracts with gods, and they are allowed to pull a certain amount of power, and it works as sort of a currency, right? And really powerful gods can give away more power and use by more power, and they can sometimes power cities.
Yeah, in some areas. And in other areas, the humans have completely supplanted the gods and killed them and taken their powers.
Oh yeah, that happened about.
And just they just harness the natural energies of the world.
Yeah, how many years before the first book did that happen?
I'm not sure. Fairly recently.
Yeah, referenced a couple times, but they never get into too many specifics.
They never get into it, but several of the characters were around when it happened.
Yeah,
especially the first book. I think I read them in order because it's another one of those strange series where they're written out of order.
Yes.
But you could read them in any order and still enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true. In fact, I don't even know what order it was written in, but I read it in chronological order.
So chronological, not publication.
Yeah, the first book is 3 Parts Dead by Max Gladstone.
Oh yeah, I should have given the author.
Yeah, that one, I thought it was really good. Started great, had me guessing all the way to the end, at least personally. I didn't see the ending coming. Kyptan, I don't know if you saw it coming. You might have.
I did.
See, look at that smart brain there.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Finding things out beforehand, right?
I did.
But the thing is that a good author telling a good story, it doesn't matter if you see the end, because the journey is part of the joy of the story.
Oh, absolutely. There are some beautiful moments just in that first book.
Oh.
Yeah, Journey Before Destination, all that.
Yeah. And I love the characters. I especially love Elaine Kovarian. But I think that might be enough about the craft sequence.
Yeah, I agree.
Should we move on?
Mm-hmm. Let's move on. Yep.
Oh, one question. Who do you think would most enjoy the craft sequence?
Well, it's got a lot of diverse characters, and I mean that in the best way possible, because it includes a lot of minorities, like sexual minorities or even just racial minorities. So maybe people who are looking for something inclusive or something very unique, because that's why I enjoyed it.
Sounds good.
100% agreed. Okay.
All right, Kyptan, I think you're up now.
Next up, yep. Okay, so my book is Soon I Will Be Invincible. It's a deconstruction of comic book tropes told from the perspective of a new member of an analog of the Justice League, but with imposter syndrome. Equally, it's also told from the point of view of an evil grad student genius that turned his jerk jock rival into Superman. Not kidding, that's basically what happens. And has been living it down for the rest of his life. It might be a little bit fluffier than some other treatments of the concept, but it's still very insightful and enjoyable, and I recommend it a lot. If you're the kind of person who needs the grittiness of Watchmen, then I would say maybe this is, it might be for you. But if you also need the depth and like just the length of Watchmen, then maybe not.
So is it more gritty than Watchmen or less gritty than Watchmen?
I'd say about equally gritty, but not as deep.
I think that's a fair analysis.
Okay.
It's short. It's a very short book.
And it is a novel?
And it's a novel. Yep.
And with all the content we are supposed to consume as certified nerds, brevity has a certain quality.
Brevity has a point. and it does have a fairly like nice comedic core to it, so I like that. It makes me laugh.
I did laugh many times throughout the whole book. So many good parts.
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot of good parts. Like, yes, maybe it like shows some fairly like deep and intense family drama or personal drama, but it doesn't have the length to do it that deeply, so you're not depressed by it. You like think about it, you have a moment, and then you're back into the comedy. And I really enjoy that.
Sounds like my kind of book.
It sounds like my kind of book too. What's the title again? And author?
Soon I Will Be Invincible.
I just added it to my TBR.
That's great.
Which is so long.
I'm probably going to add all of these books to my TBR, so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
It's great. It's a nice little book. Anyone have any more questions?
Well, what made you really like this book enough that you think it doesn't get enough credit or it's not well known enough?
I thought that it told some stories that are less likely to be told. It touched on what it's like to be the lowest lane of a situation. It touched on what it's like to have deeply disappointed parents of a superhero, and it told a story of child stars and the pain that they go under when they have to transition maybe from something that was being produced by someone else to being their own thing.
So it has stage parents?
It sounds a bit like The Boys.
It's very much like The Boys. It is. Though a more sympathetic number of superheroes.
And I would say The Boys is quite a bit more graphic than Soon I Will Be Invincible. Just put that out there for you.
Yes.
That's good.
I had to turn The Boys off because I was just like, I don't like any of you people. You're all terrible and I hate you.
Yeah, no, Soon I Will Be Invincible has many more likable characters. Superman is still a jerk, but he's kind of like a jock version of a jerk.
I agree.
So like, yeah, he's annoying and like wants all the credit and it's just kind of punches people. But he has no brains behind him to be truly malicious.
So is he just unself-aware? Because
he's very unself-aware.
He's just a big jock, big football player who got superpowers.
Yeah.
No, I think
not to demean football players or people who participate in sports or jocks in general, but
did somebody beat you up, Kip, when you were?
Oh my God, so many people tried.
I think Batman's proved that you could still be a jerk and likable.
Some succeeded, some got their noses broken. Whatever.
Well, I think if nobody else has any more questions for Kip,
I think Red, you're up next.
So, Lois McMaster Bajol's 5 God series. The first book is The Curse of Trallion. Kazriel, once courtier, castle warder, and captain, now crippled ex-galley slave seeking a menial job from the patroness of his youth, finds himself tutoring Iselle, the sister of the heir to the throne. He must face a powerful enemy and a curse that is on the royal family. To fight the curse, Kazriel must fight magic with magic, but magic is only available through sainthood or demon possession. And this book also won a Hugo Award. So there's that. And I like the unique magic system in this book. It's very, very different from what we normally see because you don't learn spells or anything. That's just not how it works. And I think these books have a really deep understanding of the human condition. And I like that the protagonist is not a fresh-faced farm boy that a wizard comes and finds, and that you become chosen. I guess you could call it chosen in this series by choosing to do something, not because of some weird destiny or whatever. And I just really like the way she uses language and humor. And I'm going to steal a quote from a later book in the series just to show kind of the way she writes. And this is during a funeral procession. Procession, not possession. The dray horses seem the only cheerful members of the party, fresh and ponderously frisky, apparently regarding the jaunt as some horsey holiday. So I just like the way she writes. I love her. She
has a lightness about her.
Right. But she deals with things that are really super serious.
She does. Very much so.
And she all of her main characters are deeply broken people that are doing the best that they can, and they make mistakes.
Deeply broken people that find out that they're never actually truly broken.
Right.
Never beyond redemption.
Right. Exactly. And it's just, I might start crying.
Yeah. Yeah.
She makes me cry. And I'm the Todd of the group, guys, even though I'm in Megan's mom.
Hey, every group needs one.
But in the second book, and you can read the books in any order, they're not linear. The main character is a woman whose mother is dead, and all of her dreams have been destroyed. And I've gone through that twice in my life, where just everything that I thought was going to happen just fell apart on me. And I'm kind of going through it now too. And so,
yeah.
Anyway, so the way the character deals with it and the way she rebuilds herself is just, it really literally got me through my divorce. So that's my pitch.
Well, I think that's a great recommendation. And I love Bujold too.
Yeah, sounds powerful.
I know. And I'm all teary-eyed and it's stupid. Anyway, anyone have questions?
So you said it's unlike other fantasy because it's not like about, destiny and people, being chosen for something, but so it's more character driven and they make choices and those choices are actually impactful. Yes,
that's kind of what it is. So how much, well, Kip will tell me to shut up if I give too much away. So, so you have to become a saint to do magic, or you have to become demon possessed.
Okay.
And so in order to become a saint, you have to completely open yourself up to your God. And there's 5 different gods. And you have to become kind of an empty cup for them to pour themselves into. So you have to choose that, and you have to constantly be choosing that in order for the gods to work through you. But the trick is you don't get to choose the magic you perform. You just have to make yourself available to your God in order for good to be done in the world. So that's how the sainthood works. That sound like a pretty...
No, that sounds really interesting. I think I understand. Sounds really religious, which is right up my alley.
And then I 100% think is either a practicing Catholic or was raised Catholic. It has that feel.
I like that in the Five Gods universe, there are no chosen people. It is exactly as you said. And you don't have a destiny.
Right.
You don't have anything forcing you to do anything. But through your own actions, you can bring like the God's light into the world.
Right. And
it's not on them. It's not on you. It's on like a combination of both.
Right. Exactly. It's like a marriage. and a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I just love that aspect. It just is nice that, and anyone can walk away at any time. You can just like say, nope, I'm not doing this anymore. And so anyway.
Okay. Ceskykure, you're up next.
Sounds great. All right. Well, the first book that I want to talk about is actually a book series similar to Hurin. Mine would be The Pillars of Reality by Jack Campbell. The first book is The Dragons of Dorcastle. Basic plot of this book is that for centuries, two great guilds have controlled the world of Demeter, the mechanics and the mages. They've been bitter rivals, agreeing only that nothing should change, that they should both be in power, that the other one is completely full of bunk. The mages don't believe in mechanics. The mechanics don't believe in the mages. It starts off a little slow, but it gets really good, really quick. Yeah, I really enjoyed reading the first book and then straight through to all the other ones.
Why did you choose it for? Is it niche or just underread?
Well, I think it's just underread, or that not a lot of people know about it. I've never had anybody. I actually had this one recommended to me from my stepbrother, but I didn't find it on my own. And I've never had anybody else. I've never seen anybody else really talking about it. The podcast talked about Jack Campbell with The Lost Fleet, his other series, which is more science fiction.
That's where I've heard that.
So I think he just doesn't get a lot of recognition for a great book series that he wrote.
Great. Sounds good.
Okay. So is it kind of like how George R.R. Martin doesn't get credit outside of Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I guess. Even his other books, I was looking through them, and they aren't. They don't have as many reviews or ratings as other popular books. So a little surprised by that when I was looking through it. So
I have a book kind of like that up on my list. I'm interested to see.
Yeah.
You mentioned mechanics. Is it like steampunk?
So like Magitech?
Yeah, it's more like there's magic, which is just, he can alter the world around him with enough focus and willpower. And then the mechanics are just kind of mechanics who can build stuff. So it's a little bit of steampunk, but more just, general mechanicking. She builds guns, they have trains, but nothing like overtly steampunkish.
Okay.
But a lot of mixing of technology and magic.
Except they hate each other. So yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
Shall I do my second one?
Go right ahead.
Has anyone read this yet? My second book is Sword of Kaigan.
I have not yet, but it's on my distant TBR.
It's on my read as well.
Definitely the most recent release on my list. I think it came out last year. And before I start to heap it praise, I'm going to have to complain about a few things that really, really bothered me in the story.
Okay.
So it's heavily Japanese inspired, and I speak Japanese. I live in Japan, and I know a lot about history and culture here. And she's done her homework. It's obvious, but inside the story, she replaces regular English words with Japanese words. And it absolutely breaks my immersion every single time it happens.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But so like not in, because you know how fantasy words have, or fantasy books have like random words that just happen.
Yeah.
So not like that.
Elvish, except there's no
exactly.
Elvish language that they've invented.
Yeah, exactly. But she, on top of that, of what I just complained about, she also has tons of words that she just made up that I don't know where she got them from. Like she has a different word for time. She won't use the word time or any amount of, she won't say seconds or hours. She has her own counting.
I just read a book like that and it was weird.
Yeah.
It sounds like Modicet.
Yeah, it does sound a lot like Modicet. But also Mercedes Lackey does it with candle marks and I hate it so much.
Oh yeah, she does. She does. But I do have a soft spot. Anyways, we're getting off topic. Come on. It's just the book. You've made us hate it already.
Yes. So as much as that bothered me, and it really, really, really bothered me, the rest of the book was so amazing that I am willing to look past it, and I still gave it 5 stars.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. No, those seem like fairly minor issues that okay.
And it's a story of a war, or the beginning of a war, and it's in, I guess, a mountain Japanese village, but it's not called Japan. It's called Kaigan, of course. And people have magic powers. It's sort of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where different parts of the world can control different elements. Like the invaders can move air and things, and protagonists are all ice aspected, I suppose you could say. And it's really mostly a story about a family. You learn how devastating war is to a family and to a village, and how the action's okay, but that's not why I read it. I read it for the wonderful, wonderful written characters. And the main character is I'm 30 or 40 something mother and wife who gave up fighting. And you see nearly everything through her lives, but you also see through her son's eyes and her husband's eyes. But I remember I made a post on Reddit complaining about how much I hated the husband character and how he was nearly ruining my enjoyment of the book. And somebody said, just wait until you get to his part. And I said, I don't believe you. But I got to it, and not only did I kind of like him, but I understood him better, even though he was incredibly flawed, just like the main character, Misaki. But I cried at least twice while reading it because it was just so good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a strong recommendation for it then.
Yeah, I was going to say, you left us speechless.
Okay. Strong recommendations moving up my list.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyone have any more questions? Because I think that was a glowing recommendation.
It was wonderful. It really was. See, you totally belong in this group.
Totally belong. Okay, I'll go up next. My next one is Too Like the Lightning by Ada Palmer. Okay, so this book I really have to talk about. It's how you make a dark utopia. You give us the best of humanity, living free from trouble, barely a care in the world, making settlements on the moon and Mars open for anyone. It's so bright. And then you add a secretive dark underbelly that keeps it all running. You make all the genders equal, but you do it by forbidding gendered language. You make a religion a private right guaranteed to all, but you do it by forbidding religious talk outside of one-on-one conversations with a government-certified philosopher.
Oh, no. That sounds terrible.
My favorite bit, though, is the reorganizing of nations into these intentional communities called hives. There's 7 hives that have spread across the world. And out of them, I'd definitely be a utopian living on the moon, making art, culture, and science.
Sounds just like you.
Yeah. They're the only hive that requires their members work. But I don't care because they still seem amazing.
What are some of the other hives like?
There's the humanists that celebrate individual human achievement. There's the Mitsubishi that value commerce and land ownership. Mitsubishi Greenpeace. It's a combination of 2 hives.
It's the most logical combination of things.
Yes. The humanists run the Olympics, for example. They celebrate the best of what humanity can do. The Brillists celebrate psychological advancement and scholarship. They quantify humanity down into basically the future version of the MBTI, except it's all numbers and only a Brilist can understand it.
So if I understand this right, it seems like it takes a lot of our modern isms and then extrapolates it into ad absurdum. Not
ad absurdum, no. It's very realistic in approach. Like the humanists are not all like Olympians,
okay,
but they all celebrate the values that lead into something like the Olympics. And like maybe an Olympic athlete would be especially high status among humanists.
Okay.
But definitely most people work like 20 hours a week and just enjoy themselves the rest of the time.
I could get behind that kind of life.
most like all essential production has been completely automated.
Okay, so as somebody who has not been out of the house for 3 weeks, that sounds like a great idea, but really,
Yeah.
I like the
And nation borders kind of evaporated after they invented flying cars that can go across the globe in 2 hours.
good. We finally get our flying cars.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's about time.
Flying cars completely changed the world is the premise of the book.
Could you give us the title again?
To Like the Lightning. And it's an unfinished series so far. But the last book in this series should be coming out fairly quickly. So I do recommend it with that grain of salt, but it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, that is a big grain of salt.
Yeah. Okay.
I just realized I forgot to give the author for my book.
Any more questions?
No, I think you've done a great job explaining it.
Sounds good. Red, do you want to go next?
Okay. So up next is Carol Berg's Lighthouse Duet. The first book is Flesh and Spirit. This is a complete series. Cataclysmic weather, three princes fighting over a throne. Imagine 17th century England with pagans, Christians, and Luddites and powerful magicians guild, plus all the said princes fighting it out for power over the country. A runaway son from the Magician's Guild, having avoided responsibility his whole life, is betrayed by a friend and rescued by a secret cabal whose purpose he can't understand. Will he finally commit to something? And there are fairies.
Great addition.
And it's much more the Celtic sense of fairies, not Tinkerbell.
Could you tell me more about the Celtic sense of fairies?
Well, like, you know how, have you read Dresden?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how the fairies are the like Mab, and they're political creatures, and they're
Dark occasionally, very dark.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. The
well,
yeah.
but not necessarily evil.
Yeah.
It's just that their purposes aren't
Terrifying.
human purposes. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
They fight the Fomori.
Not in this book, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you mean.
Anyway,
Sorry.
I would say one of the things I really like about the book is just the political interplays between the characters, because it takes seriously the alliances shift for reasons that have nothing to do with what people, I don't even know how to explain it exactly. But like sometimes a group is with one group, and then for whatever reason, they switch to a different group that they're going to ally themselves with. And you have all these different power groups fighting it out with each other. And it's just a really interesting book. It also deals with addiction in a really interesting way. The main character is an addict. And it deals with how you so often misunderstand where your parents are coming from. And then you become an adult and you learn something about them. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. So kind of like what happened with the husband character, it sounds like in your book, Huron. And it's first person. So I know that a lot of people don't like first person around here, but I like first person.
Yeah. Hey, nothing wrong with what you like.
I don't mind first person.
I don't mind first person. I think people seem to mind second person.
Oh, that's weird to read. There's a couple of authors who've pulled it off, but it's very, very weird.
The only one I know of in second person would be the fifth season by N.K. Jemisin.
Yeah.
And she only does part of it.
Yeah.
I haven't read it
Roughly
yet.
a third.
So.
Yeah.
It's a bit important though.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
I mean, I also like choose your own adventure books.
Do they still make those? Do they make those for adults?
I think it's called Life.
I mean, you can find them for adults. But no, there are the choice of games. Yeah, it's a whole video game series.
Oh, really?
Including one in the Craft universe.
Really?
Oh.
Yes. Soon, the Choice of Deathless, I think it's called. Yep. You get to play your own magic lawyer, making contracts with demons and keeping up your medical insurance and all sorts of fun
stuff.
That's
what I read fantasy books for. Medical insurance. Really just brings it home for me when they talk. So,
Hey, don't you want medical insurance that covers your transition into a deathless king?
you know, if I could get it, then yeah, I would appreciate that.
Great.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions for me about my book? Because we got way off topic, but that's okay.
So, Duet, 2 books?
It's 2 books.
Okay.
There is another 2 books that take place in the same timeline in the same world, but you don't have to read them to make sense. It's a completed series.
Okay. Kind of like Hyperion then.
Right. And it's nice because, again, brevity. We all need a little brevity in our lives.
Nice.
with our literature.
I don't read enough books. You said it tackled themes of addiction and, I don't know, parental.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's a runaway who's an addict. So it deals with that.
I see. Are these magic drugs or real drugs?
Magic drugs.
Okay.
I mean, there's real drugs too in the world. People drink. I mean, there's alcohol, but the particular addiction he has, you have to have magic to use it.
Those are always the best drugs.
Right? The magicians keep the best drugs.
I mean, yes, very often they do. They do. Okay. Ceskykure.
That's me. I guess it's time for another one. You guys picked all these really deep books and like great themes, and I just picked the books that I had a lot of fun with.
I picked some superhero fluff with like some deep moments, yes.
So don't be all judgy that mine are just not super deep. But the next one I chose is the Great Library series by Rachel Kane. Just a 5-book series. You guys like books, right?
They're okay.
Yes.
You guys like owning books, right?
Oh no.
Sometimes.
I only buy books that I know I'm going to read again. So
I'm the same way.
That's fine. In the Great Library, obviously there's a great library, but they hold a monopoly on all books. So you can't rent books, you can't own books. You have to go to the library, and if they're willing to give it to you, then you can get it. You know, you can read it. Our main character, Jess Brightwell, he is a book smuggler. So he smuggles books around to people. And it deals with him entering the library.
I'll find my new profession.
I know, right? Book smuggler. Sign me up. He enters the library service to get in so he can steal books to smuggle. But things don't go quite as he planned. It's great. There's parts that just really, there's one scene where a guy eats a book, and it just made me so disgusted the way she wrote it. It was visceral. Like you could feel it, like their disgust and like his sense of like scaredness of like being in this person's presence who would eat a book. It was great. I loved it.
There's some poisonous things in books.
No, just a book. Just a book.
So what was the point of eating the book?
Well, he wants to eat the book because it's like the one-of-a-kind book. Like, since you can't get books normally, when they smuggle it, it's like the only book that's out. And so by eating it, he is keeping all that knowledge to himself, basically. Like the ultimate power move. Like, I have this. Now nobody else can ever read this or have it like I did.
Weird.
Okay. I guess.
Weird but good.
I want to read it just for that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was a good scene. So, and they're relatively quick. I don't remember how long it took me to read them, but they were good. Any questions?
Yeah, because I was thinking that too by the book smugglers.
I don't know. I haven't read Fahrenheit 451, so I'm going to say less inspired because I can.
Well, it actually sounds like the opposite of Fahrenheit 451 because people actually want books, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that want the books but can't get them. So
yeah, in Fahrenheit 451, most people, the masses, shun books.
Yeah, that
only a few select people are collecting them and smuggling them.
Yeah, that was a weird. It's a weird trip. You should read it because it's an interesting book.
It's short and it's fantastic. I love it.
It is. It is on my list, but there's just so many.
It is incredibly short.
Get pushed up higher. So
it's almost a novella.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have read it if it wasn't required. So
yeah, it's almost novella length. So just like you could read it in that afternoon. It's
a great size that you can hide when they eventually
Right.
outlaw books.
I have one under my mattress
right.
right now, just in case they come for it.
Well, it's often.
Yeah.
I'm sure Red and Kip, you guys both know, but the author said he wrote it because everyone thinks it's about censorship.
No, but it's not.
It's
Yeah.
it's really about him saying
Disinterest.
that people are watching too much television, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's just that they don't care anymore. Yeah.
Too much information. They can't sort through it to get to the good stuff.
Yeah. It's actually kind of weirdly like the internet.
And how it's like made it so that people don't even care about other people anymore.
Right. So it is almost exactly like Twitter.
Hmm. I mean, Ray Bradbury was a visionary.
Yes, he was.
Well, people always like to argue about which classic sci-fi author got it right, whether it be him or who wrote Brave New World? Huxley?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
There's a lot of
1984.
And then 1984, Orwell.
It's really, I think it's more of a mix between all of them.
Yeah.
I think Huxley got it pretty right.
Yeah. I have my
And I think people will say that
so-
even more in like 20 years.
Okay, I'm going to write that down for you, Kip.
I feel
Well,
like
we'll take that
Huxley will have his time in 20 years when people are having designer CRISPR babies and endogenous drug.
That makes me think, what was the movie? Gattaca? Oh my God.
Well, do you want to move on to the next one?
Sure.
Sorry, Chesky.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Legendarium podcast without
a few tangents.
That's right.
All right, so I'm next.
Yep.
All right, so the next one is also fairly modern. It's I read a lot of modern novels. Guns of the Dawn. Have any of you heard of it? Read it?
I've heard of it. Never anything specific though. So please.
This time I won't forget the author. His name is Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Okay.
So it's a fantasy of manners, is what it's been described to me. And a lot of people told me that the first half was very. Who wrote Pride and Prejudice?
Jane Austen.
Jane Austen.
Thank you. It was very Austen-like. Actually, I had my sister who doesn't read fantasy read it.
Well, that's high praise.
She loved the first half.
What happened in the second half? Do we suddenly leave our Regency romance?
Well, it's no. That's always throughout the whole thing. And I'm not really a big romance guy. I could take it or leave it, but I enjoyed it for what it was. But I just really like the main character because just a girl doing what she thinks is right, what she's got to do. There's a lot of political intrigue and relationship stuff.
Okay.
I've never read a fantasy of manners, and I enjoyed the character work a lot. And there's I guess you would categorize it as gunpowder fantasy.
Okay.
Sure.
Or flintlock fantasy is what they call it.
I think either one of those is just fine. Flintlock or gunpowder fantasy.
Oh, Flintlock.
Newfangled genres.
So, some fantasy is before they invent the flintlock.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to steampunk? I mean, how is steampunk different from Flintlock?
Steampunk has more dirigibles.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So you get balloons.
Yep, you get balloons and then there's also gas lamp fantasy, which is
And
slightly different
brown.
too.
You can't forget brown.
Yes, steampunk will also be brown.
Yeah, it has to be brown.
It has to be brown, like Seneca, like the covers.
Like in sepia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sepia. There you go. Sepia was the word I was looking for.
It's got to be full of smog.
I forgot to mention that craft sequence was steampunk fantasy, or not steampunk. It was cyberpunk fantasy.
It is kind of cyberpunk fantasy. It's very. It does give me some very strong neuromancer vibes.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
Just like stick it to the corporation.
Mhm.
Yep. A lot of stick it to the corporation.
Let's make a co-op. Yeah.
So, any questions about the Tchaikovsky novel?
Who do you recommend it to?
Someone who likes old-timey Jane Austen books, but want some magic and guns.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds pretty niche, but
Jane Austen.
If you want your crinoline and rifle.
It's not that niche, I promise. There's lots of ladies.
No, that's not that niche. That sounds like a lot of people.
Yeah.
all right.
Cool. Okay,
Kip, I think you're up.
next up, The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. Starting with the quote, "The body you are wearing used to be mine." That's the first thing Miffany Thomas reads when she wakes up in a London park surrounded by bodies. Our protagonist must deal with her mysterious amnesia as she disguises herself as her former self, a rook of the superhero MI6 called the Ceskykure. It's a lovely murder mystery where the person murdered left notes for her successor and can only hope that she'll be more capable and do her best. It's an utterly fascinating read full of really quirky and fun superpowers, sometimes just as an aside, sometimes as almost like a Brandon Sanderson interlude to flesh out the world. But unlike Brandon Sanderson interludes, they always come back to be meaningful in the book they're written in.
I love the Stormlight Archive, but I want to get to know that merchant girl, man, and we just don't get to.
Yeah, it's upsetting. Yeah. But yeah, reading the dialogue and conversation and relationship between Miffany and her former self that knew she was going to get her memory erased and was going to cease to exist, that it's really interesting. And then watching this brand new, not even like 5 minutes old woman wake up surrounded by bodies, and from then on have to navigate this this secret life, both secret in the sense that she works for a secret organization of the British Crown, and also secret in the sense that even those people don't know that she's like 5 minutes old and trying to desperately figure things out.
I thought that was one of the funniest parts during the whole thing is she's trying to live her life without alerting anybody. And everyone's like, something's a little off, but we still like you. And you're like better now or like a little different.
You're like a little different now. And we think we like it.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, they're going to find out. I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, so good.
And she's like, I'm really lucky that I was the mousiest woman alive before this happened.
Yeah. Because nobody knew anything about her.
So
she was a bureaucrat. She was just the most competent bureaucrat.
Okay.
Hermes.
She'd forked over all of her field assignment work to her colleague, who did it better than her, and she was like always so insecure that like she wasn't good with her superpower.
So is she responsible for the bodies, or is that a spoiler?
You will find out.
That's not a big spoiler. That's like the first chapter.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So she is or is not? I'm sorry.
She's not. The old Miffany Thomas was not good with her superpower. The new one, well, you find out.
Yeah, I don't think you can say much more than that beyond read it.
You're never going to get spoilers out of Kip.
Yeah.
Nope.
You find out.
He makes it the most complicated, like roundabouts when he could just say something super simple that's not a spoiler. We had this whole conversation about your friend's book.
We did. I was unable to effectively recommend that book because I didn't spoil anything. Also a book with amnesia, but it takes significantly longer for you to discover that, as opposed to this one where it's like the first chapter.
Okay. Okay.
Well, you described that scene. I just read a scene like that in Shadow of What Was Lost. The second book in the
Lycanus trilogy.
He's linked. Yeah, that's it. Lycanus.
Okay, I haven't read that yet, but that's really close on my TBR.
It's okay.
It's coming up after my Dresden reread.
I just finished up my Dresden reread.
But yeah, I really recommend The Rook. The sequel is not something you have to read. It's not nearly as good. I think most of the great ideas were in The Rook. And then once all of that is solved, the sequel is not nearly as interesting. And there is a TV adaptation. It's pretty bad.
Oh, was it?
It's pretty bad.
Who made it?
Stars.
Oh.
stars UK. I think
That just makes it worse.
it was trying to go for a second season. It got canceled. And that's really unfortunate because they changed so much that I think it made things significantly worse.
That's actually
I mean, if you really like the book, maybe read it, or maybe watch the show, because any adaptation is better than no adaptation to some people. But if you're one of those people that can't stand to see their book ruined on screen, don't watch the adaptation.
Oh boy.
I usually prefer to watch it before I read it. That way I feel better about the book. Does that make sense? Like when I watch adaptations. Although I thought they did a pretty good job with Good Omens. That was pretty good.
Oh, Good Omens is lovely. Yeah. That's a great adaptation. And I think people who like the book like the show, and people who like the show often like the book.
Two episodes in.
Okay.
I wasn't disliking it. I just stopped.
It's very dry British humor. I'll say that.
Oh, I love the book.
Okay. Then I got nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should finish it if you get a chance.
Yeah, that's The Rook.
Okay,
Red, do you want to go?
Sabriel, written by Garth Nix. All you need to know about this book is that Sabriel is a senior in an English-style boarding school, and when her anti-necromancer father gets in trouble, she takes his bells, sword, and book, and goes to save him, no matter how many zombies get in her way. This is about an amazing girl who fights zombies with bells.
With bells?
With bells.
That's exactly what happens, and it's amazing.
It's so great. It's so great. And it has deep themes too. It's Chesky, but I just want you to know my other books.
And the bells have names.
You enjoy it on the surface level as well. You don't have to get into the deepness. Anyway, but yeah, no, it's just so much fun. And there's a talking cat. And later in the series, there's a talking dog. I mean,
yeah.
What can you not love?
It should have started with a talking dog.
And the first book stands alone, pretty much, as a finished story.
Yes,
it does.
The second two books have to go together. And
yes.
They're actually one long book. The second two books are one long book.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one it's a short read. It's YA, so it's light and fluffy in a lot of respects.
It's YA-ish. It stands up very well to an older audience.
Oh, for sure. But
yeah.
I just mean it was written with a YA audience in mind.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, just judging from the language in it. But it's really good. It's just so much fun. We're fighting zombies with bells, folks.
Fighting zombies with bells. And each bell has its own name, its own mythology. It's great.
I thought it was very well explained throughout the whole book. It really kept you, kind of just taught you along with it, with her already knowing everything, though.
Mm-hmm. And Brandon Sanderson credits Sabriel with inspiring his own magic systems and his laws of magic. Yeah.
I did not know that.
When was it written?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
Let me pull it up.
More than 30 years?
Sabriel was written in 1995.
Yeah. Oh. And there's still books coming out in that series, but none of them.
Yeah, the original trilogy is good. The sequels are not nearly as good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I still like them, though.
They got significantly more YA, I feel.
That's a fair criticism. But
the author started writing children's books now, and I think it's leaked into his other series.
Yeah,
I have read his other children's books, both as a child and an adult, and I did enjoy them all. So
yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Does he stick with fantasy for most?
Yeah, I think he has some sci-fi because there's Shade's Children, I think is what.
Yeah.
That's a weird one, but it's good, but it's weird.
It's kind of sci-fi.
Kind of
fantasy.
Kind of post-apocalyptic.
Dystopian.
Yeah. So
it's a dystopian sci-fi with some shades of fantasy and unexplained magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it like science fantasy?
Yeah, sure. Okay. It's got automated cars and magic children.
And those magic children are horrific.
Yeah.
It's sad, but it's good.
It's very, very sad magic children.
Not happy magic children. Unlike Sabriel, who fights zombies with bells and is amazing.
And does it with
there.
her English like etiquette instructor's voice in her head.
Yes. I forgot about that part.
Like, oh, Miss So-and-so would never approve of this.
And she's like, her house is filled with magic servants, and she tries using her voice to order the servants around her, lady of the house voice, and it doesn't work, and it's just so great.
It's a great series. And it does have some fun humor in it. Though I think Lyriel has significantly more humor in it, the second book in the series.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
The one with the talking dog.
Yeah. And, pipes.
Oh, and magic pipes.
Oh, and there's magic books too, by the way.
Yes.
That only certain people can open.
All three of the things her father leaves her, the sword, the bells, and the book, all super magic.
Does it have non-magic things in the story? Because I hear talking dogs, talking cats, talking books.
The books don't talk. Come on, they just can't be open.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the books don't talk. They just maybe melt your mind if you're not meant to read them.
Yeah, there's lots of non-magic things. There's people walking around. There's a fishing boat.
Only the fishing boats are non-magic.
Not all of them.
No, there actually is a magic boat, isn't there?
There is a magic boat.
There's magic planes too, made out of paper. But actually, there is a lot of non-magic because the school that Sabriel went to is across the wall. There's a wall where these two worlds have collided, and the magic doesn't work on one side of the wall, and it does work on the other side of the wall. And she's from the magic side, but she's been educated in the non-magic side.
But the wind sometimes blows magic over the wall. And so like her boarding school gets like a little bit of magic, but what they can do with the magic at school is fairly limited.
And the electricity goes out when the magic is.
Yes, and electricity and technology don't work the closer you get to magic.
Right. And the other side of the wall is kind of like, I would say 1920s technology. 1920s.
Yeah, I'd say about the 20s.
Yeah.
And it's very much like an English analog, and it's great.
Yes, it's so England. There's cricket. I mean,
there is cricket. There's a cricket team, and it's an all-women boarding school for young ladies of quality.
I can't believe how long we're spending on this book, but it's just so much fun.
But it's the only one with a sorcery program.
Right.
I'm looking at the cover now. The bells are on the cover too.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. The bells are big. The bells are a big deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're so much fun. Like she has one bell that could, if you ring it, it sends everybody within hearing distance into death. They just go into death.
Yep.
Oh.
Death is a realm. There's 9 realms of death. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's a river that carries souls away.
And then there's the zombies so instead of being reanimated, so you know how like zombies in our normal sense are kind of like rambling monsters with no brains. The people who are zombies are people who have crawled out of death and claimed a body.
Yeah, souls that a necromancer has brought out of death.
Right. Unless they're one of the greater dead.
And it's her father's job to banish them back to whence they came.
He's the abhorsen, which is why...
The good necromancer.
Yeah, exactly. Anti-necromancer was a good way to put it.
Anti-necromancer, yep. So you guys have any questions?
No, I think you guys definitely covered everything that I have a question about.
Yeah, I feel like I know this story.
I was thinking of doing a reread, but not anymore, so...
Oh no! Did we let the spoilers out, Kit?
We did not.
I thought you guys did great.
So.
Yeah, I liked hearing you geek out.
Okay. Ceskykure, you're next.
That's me. All right. I've got 2 options for you here. I can go with Alex Varys, which is it's similar to Dresden, or I can give you the coolest magic system you've ever heard of.
Coolest magic system.
Yeah, you're really selling the second one.
Well, they're both good, but
You give me something like Dresden, but
let me give
worse.
really cool.
Off-brand Dresden.
that's what it is, but it's great.
Look, we're all stuck inside these days. Sometimes we're going to need to sacrifice quality just to have a book.
That's right. All right, let me tell you guys about Libriomancer by Jim C. Hines. It's a series. There's 4 books. The main character, his name is Isaac Vano, and he is a Libriomancer, which means that he can pull things out of books. So you read a book, you think, hey, that'd be really cool if I had that physical thing or that whatever in real life. Bam.
How big a thing?
Depends on how big a book it is. You have to be able to pull it through the book.
Oh, okay, so you can't pull a car through the book.
Unless you had a really big book.
Ah.
How common are these mancers?
Not super common, but there are multiples of them.
Can you pull out people?
Yes. Well, yes and no.
Oh.
It would give a little bit away, but no, not generally. They're generally too big or too complex. But there are
theoretically
rules, so it is slightly more. It's a mix of soft and hard magic, where there are a lot of rules, but there's also a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
So the main plot
Can
of
you
the
pull out
book,
pets?
you could, yes.
Okay.
Could a Libromancer just petition a publisher to make a really, 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 really big book?
Actually,
So
that's part of the books. You know, is that
Yeah, I'm betting the most powerful ones are publishers.
yeah. So the guy who's kind of the head of the Libromancers is Gutenberg. Yes, Gutenberg of the printing press.
Oh, hey, they are publishers.
So every so often,
Gutenberg, or is it somebody with that name?
no, it's literally him.
No, actual.
Yeah,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah.
It's a secret world.
So, obviously they if they really need something read or built, they will commission somebody to read it or to write it. Obviously, Libromancer, the more the book is read and kind of believed in, the stronger or the more you can pull things out of it, or the more effective it is when you pull it out. So they have to make good books. They can't just write trashy novels that don't work. And part of his job is to read books and figure out what good things are in books that they can use.
Oh, that sounds like a great job.
Right? Magical researcher. Yes, this is a great object.
The magic system decides how good a book is. That's interesting.
Well, kind of my belief, but yeah. So it was great. There's vampires. There's new things. By the end of the series, people are pulling. There's a new Libromancers who can pull magic out of ebooks versus out of books. So
I like this author.
Use one of those screens on Times Square. Pull out an ebook.
I have questions.
sure, ask a question.
Okay, so the magic, you pull things out of a book. Can you just endlessly pull like the same thing out of a book? Or do you need to buy a new copy of the book? Does that make sense?
No, yeah, you can pull out of the same copy of a book, but the more you pull things out of a book, the more, now air quotes here, degraded that book copy can become. And then based on how good it is, kind of means how long you can use that book, until the degradation gets too big, and then you have to wait until it kind of fades away. Otherwise, there are consequences for doing it.
So I can't pull 10 puppies out of a book about puppies.
Well, if it was a really good book, you probably could. But then you might not be able to pull puppies out of that book for a while, right? Or anybody else in the whole world couldn't do that, right?
And then it recovers?
Yeah, and then it would recover over time.
Okay.
I got a question. You said the magic, it kind of depends on how good the book is.
Mm-hmm.
But is it really how good it is or how well read it is?
It's a little bit more how well read it is / how much people believe in the book itself. So if you had a lot of people reading a really bad book, it wouldn't be as good as a lot of people reading a really good book. Just because there's that level of belief and in the book.
But would it be better than like one person reading a really good book?
I would maybe. I don't know. It doesn't really give me like really good specifics. This is all speculation.
I have Biscuit upstairs that
Okay.
lots and lots of kids have read, and it has a puppy that I could pull out of it.
Yeah. I do want to put just a slight content warning, just with sexuality and stuff. It's not bad, but there's one character who has a lot kind of stuff going on. It's not horrible, but it just maybe not for like the youngest of kids.
Okay. I won't have my 3-year-old nieces reading it.
Yeah, probably not. But I would say maybe 16 and up.
Nieces read?
Fine. I don't know.
Good point. I won't read it to them.
Do you guys have any other questions for me about it?
Oh, yes. I have.
I think we asked plenty.
Oh, sorry. I got one more.
One more.
This magic system is just really interesting to me.
I agree.
Are there groups of people like trying to increase the merit of some not so good books?
Yes.
So like, I don't know. You got governments around the world like hiring people to get on the internet and become warriors and like change public opinion, right? So it's fairly easy to change public opinion, especially about things that are subjective. But
yeah,
does that come up?
It comes up, not so much. It's not really, kind of stays out of politics.
I mean, you just need to pay off some book reviewers.
Pay off some book reviewers, or
Florence Foster
write your own
Jenkins
book. Put it out there. No, it's a little bit, not really. One part is one more thing, and then I'll be done with this one, I promise. Isaac is talking with one of his friends who was a Libromancer, and she's been turned into a vampire. And her excuse was, well, now I have all the time in the world to read all these books that I was never able to get to before.
I think that's what most people would think after they become vampires. As it happens,
Well, so let's move on to another one.
It's my turn, right?
Yes.
The next one I chose was The Goblin Emperor. Have any of you read this?
No.
I have, but it's been a while.
It's by Catherine Addison, I believe. And I read it as part of the Reddit. I read it as a part of the Reddit. What's it? What do they got? Bingo?
Yeah, the book bingo. That's what
the slice of
bingo.
Life.
That's what I read it for as well.
I don't know what slice of life means, but I loved it a lot. It only follows one character, and he's not a bastard son, but he's the son of an elf king and a goblin woman, and goblins are not really seen thought highly of in this kingdom. And suddenly one night all of his family dies and he becomes the emperor. So there's a little bit of political intrigue, but that's not why I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun not really fun, but I enjoyed following this one character while he's just genuinely a good person at heart. And he has to learn how to run a kingdom while still keeping his humanity.
Yeah, he's very inexperienced in regards to like what it actually takes to run a kingdom, because it was never a possibility for him before, and all of a sudden he's thrust everything is on him now.
And that deals with abuse too. He was abused.
Okay.
And how to.
So it's slice of life for a king.
Emperor.
Okay. Emperor. Sorry, for a new emperor. I think slice of life as a genre is supposed to be about, you talk about the times where there is no like specific crisis that would normally make for a different kind of book. For like, a Sanderson book, there's always some sort of crisis, small or large. The world is in danger. And if you're just, if it's just the story of how you're being like an okay, mediocre king or whatever, or even a good one, but like not necessarily facing like an apocalypse.
So like
that's kind of slice of life
for the Merchant Girl. I want that book. Would be a slice of life book. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Are we getting more of her?
I hope so.
Yes, we're definitely getting more of her.
I love her so much.
She's been like one of the most consistent interlude POVs. Off topic.
Okay.
That's all
I think it is confirmed that he said we're getting more of her.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yes.
So, any questions?
What's your favorite menial little tiny struggle that he has?
It's hard to say. I don't remember much. It was a while ago.
Like dealing with the housekeeper?
I think it was just him dealing with people and being generally nice to them
And caring.
and having them be completely flummoxed as to why he's being nice to them or how he's trying to trick them. But he's just being a nice person, right?
Yeah, I like all those stories where they kind of go into a person who doesn't understand like how the game is played, and they're thrust into a situation where they're forced to play the game, and they win by not playing.
Interesting. I feel like I have to plug Spinning Silver right now.
Oh, that was so good.
By Naomi Novik. Spinning Silver. It's a retelling of the story of Rumpelstiltskin.
Oh, I could not figure out what it was a retelling of.
In Europe, except the protagonist is Jewish. Yeah, it's really good.
Is this by the same author
as Uprooted? Yes, okay. Same author. Which is why I'm definitely going to read Uprooted, because Spinning Silver was fantastic, and I didn't know that it was the book I wanted to read.
I liked Uprooted.
I have not read either yet, so.
Oh, you are missing out. You've got to read them both. They're quick, they're easy, just fun.
Okay. Done with Goblin Emperor?
Yeah, and then somebody has any questions. Oh, he already finished. Yep.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. On to my next one. Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. Always timely. Oryx and Crake doesn't get as much attention as The Handmaid's Tale, but in my opinion, it's a much more prescient book. It tells the story of a world which nearly destroyed itself through the greed of corporations, men, and pharmaceuticals. It's written in a style which takes two viewpoints mostly. It takes that of Jimmy and that of Snowman, and they're in different eras, but they work very well together. And it tells the story of the world before the collapse and the story of the world after. And in this time of global pandemic, I thought maybe it deserves some more attention. Handmaid's Tale had its time, and now I think Oryx and Crake should be a book that people pick up.
Wait, when you mentioned a story of before and after a collapse, all I could think of is Final Fantasy VI.
I mean, Final Fantasy explores the corporation destroying the world a lot. So
great, I'm gonna read it now. It's my favorite Final Fantasy.
Weirdly, mine is 8, but that's just because it was the first one that I had.
Weirdo.
Yeah. Also, Squall is hot. And he had a great jacket.
And hair. Don't forget the hair.
And Gunblade.
Hair, how'd that haircut go?
Oh yeah, no. I've got like a half inch of hair on my head. It's great. Okay, so that's Oryx and Crake. Oh, and also at the heart of it is a love story.
So it's a romance.
I feel like that's a recurring.
A sad love story, but a love story.
Oh, those are the worst ones.
Oh.
Yep. Okay. Next.
I'm passing.
Jessica, you want to tell us about Alex Veris, your cut rate Dresden?
You are passing.
Because we can only reread Dresden so many times.
I've only read it once. I need to do my reread.
I will tell you about.
I've only
Alex
done it twice,
Veris.
and I feel like I'm good.
There's lots of Easter eggs.
So Alex Veris, he's a wizard, magician, right? He lives in London, but he does not put his name in the paper. He runs a magic shop, sells little magic items or a lot of fake magic items as well, just to stay in business, to try and meet people. Alex is a mage, but his ability is divination. So seeing the future, predicting the future. It's great. The story of the first book is that the council, there's a dark council and a light council. The light council and the dark council both come after him to get him to open up a special lock. And then it just goes from there. It starts off, I think, a little bit better than the Dresden series, where Dresden kind of took 3 books to kind of get started and roll you into it. Whereas this kind of just starts where like book 4 would start.
Starts good.
Well, let's not say that the first 3 didn't start good, just that by the 4th one, you're really moving into a wide open world. And this one, I think, only takes like 1 or 2 books, and then it's completely wide open. Couple of really funny things is he never practices shooting or like throwing anything because he cheats and looks in the future until he sees the future that he shoots the person correctly, and then just does that. He swats a grenade back at somebody once because, of course, you can just predict that kind of thing. You know? So
yeah. It
is quite good. He explains it well. He has a great limitation, but a great power that you would never think of as you'd think, seeing the future is always useful, but the way it's written makes it really better.
Foresight is a 9th level spell in Dungeons and Dragons.
That's right. So
how far?
But sorry, what?
Say, how far in the future can he see? Like 10 minutes, 10 years?
Variables, but he has an unconscious sight going of about like 5 minutes. So, or like depending on how stressed he is or how imminent his life's in danger. In a fight, he's got about 3 seconds of future sight. But in general, I know somebody's going to walk through the door in 5 minutes or blah, blah, blah. Quite good. It's a good recommendation. I think it is, let me look. The 11th book is coming out this year, hopefully. And I think that's pretty close to being the end of it, if it's not the end of it.
That's interesting.
What's the title again? Sorry.
Oh, the first one is called Fated by Benedict Jacka.
I'm now imagining all of the things that Miffany Thomas from The Rook would do if she could see 5 minutes into the future.
Sounds like fanfic for you to write, Kip, in your downtime.
I don't know. I think it's more interesting that Miffany only has like some very fleeting access to like divination. She gets like a warning from Circe at one point, which is hilarious.
So, any other questions beyond you should go read it?
All right. So, Lord of Light. How many of you read this?
Me?
Yeah,
not I.
Yeah, I know Kip likes it. Yeah, I love this book.
I love it.
So it's science fantasy. The author is Zelazny. What's his?
Yep, Roger Zelazny.
Roger Zelazny.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote the Chronicles of Amber. I think this is his most famous series.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like those books.
They're okay. I love Lord of Light, but it's science fantasy, but the science is like total nonsense. It's mostly just cool stuff.
Yeah.
So it takes place in the far, far, far future. There's no Earth anymore. Humanity has colonized different planets, and the early colonizers on a certain planet basically got godlike powers because of the reincarnation machine, and so they get to control humanity because they control who gets to live, who gets to keep living. So they control the technology, so they control the people. That's the idea.
Is it kind of like I can't remember what they're called, the things in Dune that keep bringing Duncan, Idaho back?
Oh, the
golem.
No, yeah,
the Gola.
No,
I should talk about the Duncan Gola. Yeah, the people who make the Gola.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Benetilaxu.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay. It's less like that and more like they grow new bodies for everybody before they die and then transfer your soul over into the new body.
Well, okay. Wow.
But what's cool about the story is all of these original colonizers take on the aspects of former Earth gods, mainly those of the Hindu pantheon.
Mhm.
So they kind of go back through into Hindu mythology, and they try to look like them and act like them and take on their aspects. And like if it's a fire god, then they'll just be encased in fire all the time. And so they've kind of made their own religion, and people worship them. And the main character, he's one of the original colonizers of the planet, the first people there. But he's tired of the system because he used to be part of it, and he takes on the role of Buddha. Sorry, Booty. So Shakyamuni, right? And so he spreads the idea of Buddhism throughout the common people as a way to overthrow the pantheon that are currently ruling. And it's full of lots of really cool imagery. It's got a lot of really cool religious stuff. There's also a Christian god there, but he's not a Christian god, but he's a Christian.
He's a very warped Christian god. Yeah,
the Hindus too. I think he was my favorite character actually.
Nariti the Black. Yeah,
it's really really cool.
Is he a bad guy?
He's kind of a bad guy.
Yeah, I'd say he's yeah.
I'd say there's a bunch of bad guys, and sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Okay.
But
even the main characters, I wouldn't really even categorize as a good guy.
No,
It's
better than a bunch, but not great.
Are the characters likable? Because I don't mind reading bad guys as long as I can like the characters. Does that make sense?
I think Sam is likable.
Definitely likable.
Yeah,
I just don't think he's doing everything.
His name is Mahasam Atman, but you can drop the Maha and the Atman and you just have Sam.
Nice. Because that's why I quit reading the Amber books, because I just hated the main character.
I know what you mean.
In the face.
No, Sam I think is definitely likable. I mean, his motivation isn't so pure, but he himself I think is good.
Cool.
It's also very clear that like all of the characters are slightly larger than life.
Okay.
And like almost like a morality play.
Okay.
So they're interesting in that regard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I might give it a try.
They're all magnified into these godlike aspects.
Right. Yeah.
And they gain magic powers.
And they talk like it.
It's not really quite clear how.
But most importantly, they talk like it. They give speeches. They have philosophical conversations. They have deep, meaningful personal bonds that transcend time.
I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, is John Galt from in this book too?
If one god dies, another god has to take his place, especially if it's a really powerful god.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's even trans representation.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it's great.
I forgot about that.
And if that wasn't enough to sell it, it won the Hugo Award. It almost inspired its own theme park.
Really?
And it was the script that they used when the CIA rescued all those hostages in Iran.
Oh, I knew that.
And that they made the movie Argo about.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a script good enough to to fool Iranian terrorists.
It's very old, yeah.
It is an older book, yes.
I never hear anyone talk about it. I didn't know it was that popular.
I feel like 60s. It used to be popular, and that's why it's underrated and needs to come back.
I agree.
Okay,
last one, Kip.
Last one. Okay, I saved my most complicated pick for last. The Uplift War by David Brin. If you want a grand story that is unafraid of dropping you in the middle of the conflict, read this book. Humans are in the process of reviving the dying planet of Garth when they're attacked by the bird-like Gubru. As they seize the planet, Garth's fighters, 2 ally ambassadors, and one of their daughters has to flee into the wild jungles of Garth to escape persecution. It's a story with truly alternate species viewpoints, which I don't see enough of, and I appreciate Bryn a lot for that. He does even more intense aliens in his main Uplift cycle, which this is just 1 out of 6 books. So check that out if you like, but this is a completely self-contained story.
So is this Is this before or after the
Yeah.
other Uplift books, or kind of just in the middle?
It's kind of separated because it takes place on an unrelated planet, like a backwater planet. So like what else is happening in the universe isn't super important at that time. So I would say that like maybe it takes place before most of the others, it takes after Sundiver and around the same time as Startide Rising.
Okay, but it's self-contained, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So there's like,
I read Startide. I thought it was weird.
Like this is one of Earth's minor outlying colonies, and they're rehabilitating a dying world because that's all that galactic civilization will grant them as a colony. There's like this planet that was already dying because another species misused it. And Earth is apparently getting a reputation for being able to clean up planets like that.
playing against type, right?
It's almost like they have experience. But yeah, it's a really interesting series. It's an interesting book. There's a species of jokesters called the Timbrimi, which I'm in love with. The greatest art of their culture is the practical joke. And I love them for that. And as an ambassador to this human planet, they sent one of their least humorous members to hope that maybe he would be maybe humans would think he wasn't so weird. But that just means that like his idea of humor is like, oh, I'll put a stink bomb in this departing ambassador's craft.
So you said so the humans wouldn't think they're weird. So are the characters not human? Did I miss?
There's two Timbrimi, which are aliens. They're the ambassador and his daughter. There's a Thenanin, which is another ambassador. But then everyone else is either human or chimpanzee.
So there aren't any dolphins?
There are no dolphins on Garth. The oceans don't suit them. But humans have uplifted chimpanzees and dolphins to full sentience.
We had to pick two. I guess those would be the two we picked.
Yep. Yep. And once Galactic Society found humankind, they decided, oh, no. You can't have more than two. You guys are a baby race on your own. You only have one planet and you already have two client species? No. You're done. The rest of them are protected from your meddling. And like some of that was like good-natured stuff. But it turns out that all of Galactic Society is based on a power structure of how many client species do you have. So they also didn't want humans to like have more credit than they thought they were due.
Makes sense.
So
I think I remember that from Startide.
So are there some smart chimpanzees and some not, or are they all smart?
They're graded on a curve. There is one example in the series of a chimp who's not as uplifted as the rest. He's nonverbal, has to communicate through a tablet.
Those things like Amy has in Congo. Okay.
Yeah, very, very much. Yeah. But the ambassador does not devalue his skills or treat him as any less of a person, and it's great. And meanwhile, there's other ones that are like PhD candidates or full doctors that are characters that we get to see. One is a soldier. And then we also get to see like every chimpanzee is graded on a curve. Sorry, graded on a color scale. So you've got red cards, which aren't allowed to reproduce. And you've got white cards, which have unlimited reproductive rights.
Okay.
And various shades in between. It's a really interesting look on racism, privilege, a whole bunch of things, and an oppressive galactic society that makes them do this grading system in the first place.
Oh, so that's not even something that humans imposed on the chimpanzees.
Humans apparently are being so much less restrictive. Like the minimum level of restrictive that Galactic Society would tolerate.
That's surprising.
Yeah. It's a little surprising, but it's still really like fascist. It's really fascist. like an enlightened version of fascist, but it's still eugenics, and that's really disturbing.
That was a good talk, everybody.
It was.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that just about wraps up this episode.
That was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. Oh, and Horizon Brave says hi. Make sure to get that in. Hi, Horizon Brave.
Hi, Horizon.
Okay, Horizon Brave says hi. Hi, Horizon. This is all his fault.